Hey everyone, it's Michael. So if you're wondering what's going on and why this episode is coming out later than usual, well, it's because Stefano's at a MAGA rally, David is off doing feminist poetry somewhere, and Jeremy is in a dark room eating souls of his enemies. Just kidding. Everyone's on Christmas break. Everyone's getting a nice vacation off. So I thought it'd be cool to do a best of episode featuring some of my favorite moments. And I'm not going to lie, they're a little slapped together. So be sure to comment your favorite moment from this past year of our podcast. It's been a great first year. We've had lots of growth. We've gotten our name out there. And there's definitely got to be more best of moments than this. Anyway, here's the first clip. And for context of that situation, we've interviewed a lot of famous MMA and kickboxing fighters. But I think the magnum opus for me was a guy who I watched as a child, Cheick Kongo, who, by the way, is still doing it today. And what was even more surreal was that Cheick Kongo wasn't really guarded with his answers. He was as honest and as candid as could be. So, for context of this clip, I asked him about Ryan Bader, and he was not shy about his response.
Do you think that if you were to beat Tim Johnson, you would get that rematch with Bader? Or do you think that you need more wins under your belt to kind of get that rematch with Bader, sometime in the near future?
No, the thing is, it's not like sometime in the near future. I don't want to waste my time, to try to prove to some people, I have the ability to do it. I think, I proved it a long time ago. The thing is, as you say, we have an unfinished work to make it done, and that's what it will be. The thing is, he just denied the proposal because he was thinking like to win against his last opponent in light heavyweight, but his guy fucked him up. Sorry for the word, and he beat him up like pretty well. So at some point, just like karma, bitches. So, and he got, the thing is, I don't know why he didn't accept the fight, but for sure he knew, picking the fight with me will be in the same issues with the Russian, but he was thinking like with the Russian, he will be able to handle the situation, but he didn't. So, and of course he didn't want to face me because he knows the danger and the potentials. So that's also the reason he poked me in the eyes, just like as a coward. So, but not mentioning him, again, So, and to reply to your question, no. The thing is, he have some time to recover. So that's why they proposed me Tim Johnson.
Man, it was a huge honor to have Cheick Kongo on the show, and an even bigger honor for him to actually be very, very open with his time. So, thank you to Cheick Kongo for that. Our next clip is a pretty recent one, but I think it's one of the more funniest moments of our podcast history, or at least of video history. So, context of this situation. Jeremy is talking about how there were some errors in the camp training of Nate Robinson, and he doesn't think that he was necessarily prepared for the bright lights of fighting in a ring against Jake Paul, and thought that his trainers, which included myself, by the way, but I'm not really his trainer, but thanks for that, Jeremy. But anyway, he thought that he would actually be prepared a lot more because these are things that trainers would just kind of get you ready for. To which David said that Jeremy would get pieced up by Jake Paul, not because he doesn't love Jeremy or anything, but just because Jake Paul's been training for a while. And Jeremy did not take that laying down. So, here you go.
But I want you to understand something. You looking at me? You looking at me?
No.
I want you to. I want you to.
say.
I want you to understand something. I would knock that boy's block off. All right.
No,
All right.
you wouldn't, man.
I want you
man.
to. No, okay. You gonna understand.
Michael,
you gonna
train
understand.
People. That's the problem.
No,
That's
you gonna
why
understand.
You train people.
No.
And you're gonna let your brother go in thinking he could beat somebody who's trained for what must be years?
Sir, there will be nobody who will commit themselves to the process. I'm the greatest to commit themselves to the process.
Jeremy, you still got
Okay,
school,
I'm too
no?
pretty.
This guy, man.
Listen,
Don't
I'm
he
too
know
pretty.
you-
Listen, I'm the prettiest. Ain't nobody prettier than me. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Nobody's prettier than me. Nobody's prettier than me. Nobody commits
Tell 'em.
themselves to anything, and nobody's a kinetic
Tell 'em.
genius like me. All right.
Tell 'em.
I would knock that boy's block
Tell
off
'em.
into next Tuesday.
Let's go.
That's what.
That's what I like
understand
to hear.
that.
That's what I like to hear.
No. I'm not somebody who talks off of ego, but I
Look
will
in with
not-
the mic.
Exactly. Look at
Say
me,
it with
David.
the chest.
Look at me,
Well,
David.
he can't see you, but like whatever.
Oh shit. Okay.
But say it with your chest.
All right. Well, envision me and understand the words that come out of my mouth. Okay. Don't disrespect me, sir. Don't disrespect me.
Man.
Yo,
Michael, your brother finna get knocked out, man.
man, listen.
Listen, man. I go into any. If I were to no, not if. When the day should come. Look, man. When the day should come, I'm okay. What did Israel Adesanya say? I'm prepared to die. But it won't happen. Listen. Let me tell you something else. Let me tell you something else. If God came right now and judged me, and decided if I'm going to heaven or hell, I know which place I'm going. That's my motivation for making sure that in a kill or be killed scenario, I'm not the latter.
Hey, I like that line. That's a good line.
It's not really weird. I thought we were talking about boxing.
No.
All I will say is that,
It's just you kind of got to me with that whole getting pieced up thing. That's all. It just kind of touched.
Bro,
it kind of plucked on my heartstrings a little bit, David. You kind of plucked on my heartstrings a little
Tell
bit,
him
man.
again. Tell him again. No,
I'm
okay.
sorry.
we
Go
will
ahead,
go
man.
cold. Jake Paul, like, no disrespect, I'm not sure Michael could beat Jake Paul. Like,
Whoa.
I think those guys actually show.
Hey, me, it's actually kind of a question.
Forget it. You guys keep thinking those guys are sweet.
Okay,
Those
Michael.
guys-
Michael's been fighting for years upon years now. Don't disrespect
Well,
Michael.
not-
Wow.
It's been 3. Sorry, no, hold on.
like,
It's been
come
2.
on, Like those guys train. Like that's what I'm saying. Like
Yeah,
maybe
no,
Nate
no.
Robinson
Like we have to
trained-
stop. We have to stop. Just because they're YouTube stars does not mean that they don't
Yeah,
take it
man, like-
seriously. No, it's true.
Bro, like,
it's true.
like, man. All right.
But
keep
with that
thinking
being
they're sweet.
with that being said, though, no one's gonna come out here and tell me in my face some YouTube star's gonna beat
Yeah,
me.
absolutely,
How
man.
dare you,
The fuck?
sir? No, I'm kidding.
I didn't say they would. I'm not sure. I would like to see it.
Yeah.
Like what's that guy's name? Logan Paul's like 6'2".
No, you know what? I was
225. Come on,
people have been saying in the UFC PI that when he sparred Paulo Costa and grappled with him, it was actually a sight to behold. They went to war.
I believe it.
Yeah, they went to war.
I believe it.
I heard
Man, people keep thinking. Anyway, forget that.
Yeah.
Go on.
Okay. After all of that, Logan Paul, if you like to face Jeremy Asiffo, we can talk numbers.
Reach
later.
out, my people, or follow us. Reach out to the Leg Kick Podcast.
Let's get going. Let's going. Let's get going. Some
Yes.
numbers.
Let's
do it.
rumble.
You know
Let's
what?
rumble,
I'm backing
Jakey.
you, Jeremy.
Let's rumble, Jakey.
Jakey.
Let's mix it up, Jakey.
Jakey.
And once I dust your ass, I want your older brother.
Woo!
Let's rumble,
Jakey.
Let's
That
mix
was
it
the
up,
fighting
Jakey.
words I've ever heard.
Let's mix it up, Jakey. Jakey.
Jakey. Okay, I'm done. All right. So before this podcast gets completely off the rails,
You
let's
got
do some.
guns.
Wait.
You got guns,
Before
but
this,
I got
can we just have
guns.
a good old fashioned? Before you move on, can we have a good old fashioned WWE tag team match between the Asiffo brothers and the Paul brothers?
Hey.
Let's do it. Let's do it. I am ready.
Who wins?
We would mess
Oh
them
man,
up,
that's
bro.
definitely gonna be our Instagram poll.
We
Who
would
wins,
mess
the
them
Paul
up.
brothers or the Asiffo brothers?
We would mess them up.
Jakey. That's my thing from now on. Oh, and Logan. Hey! Shit. Hold on. Logan.
Logan.
Come out and play.
Come out and play. Don't be mad. UPS is hiring.
Hey. Okay. But yeah. Okay. But we completely lost our way.
Jakey. So our next clip
is an interesting one. So obviously earlier in the year, Khabib Nurmagomedov retired, and it was an emotional send-off as he had a very, very thrilling victory of Justin Gaethje before retiring, obviously citing his father's death and his mother's plea to never fight again, and his word to promise to his mother that he wouldn't fight again after this fight. So, we actually took the liberty of discussing where Khabib would rank all time, and the answer wasn't so clear-cut. So, here's a clip of all of us discussing where we thought Khabib ranked in our all-time GOAT list.
I wanted you to, if we may, to assess Khabib's overall legacy, because there's a lot of GOAT talk, and because of how emotional the moment was, and I think for all of us as MMA fans, it was a big kind of bonding moment of like, you know, this is a man who's climbed to the top of the mountain, and now he's suffered some great personal loss, and I don't know, it was a very humanizing moment, I think, for all of us. Now, I think a lot of us have kind of gotten swept up in that emotion and been like, yes, consensus GOAT of all time. I did yesterday. I'm like, GOAT of all time. But if we're having a serious analytical conversation, and I think there's only probably two other fighters in the running for the status of greatest of all time.
Not three? You wouldn't give Anderson Silva a conversation?
I think I think he's elite of the elite, but I think as far as number one GOAT, I wouldn't put him up there, and I'll tell you why.
Step below?
I think he's a step below George St. Pierre. I think his accomplishments are not as significant as George St. Pierre's, and I'll tell you why. George was able to do it in two divisions. George was able to go undefeated for the large portion of the latter part of his career. And the postscript to both of their careers have been, I think George also faced, a higher level of competition than Anderson Silva does, and I think that's unquestionable. Not that Anderson Silva's level of competition is anything to turn your nose up against. It's still substantial competition, but I think George St. Pierre was able to beat four generations of welterweights. Now, I think the three are Khabib, John Jones, and George St. Pierre. Guys, I'll let you have the floor. What do you think? Who in what order would you rank those three, and why?
Oh, man. So before this fight, John Jones actually came out, and the headline says that John Jones is irked by Khabib calling for number one pound-for-pound status. I don't know. I think Khabib is right up there with any of those people that you mentioned. I would say it's tough, but because I'm not, I wasn't really here for much of GSP's reign, and I'm also not Canadian, which Canadians love GSP, which fair enough. But I would say maybe Jones, Khabib, GSP.
GSP third?
Yeah, that order. But that's in terms of like their career, though. Like in terms of who's the best fighter that I've seen, probably John Jones, like most well-rounded. But if it was like, who's the most dominant force, definitely Khabib.
Right.
Definitely.
Yeah, and here's the thing. I would say that why Khabib's in this conversation, because he didn't do it in two weight classes as George St. Pierre did. Although, that... I mean,
he only had one fight.
No, he only had one fight, but that one fight was a title fight against a strong middleweight champion in Michael Bisping, and won decisively, but... I mean, the reason why Khabib, I think, is still...
Are we overrating... Oh, you see, this is the problem. I hate doing this with Michael Bisping. I hate doing it because everyone does it, and I think he's a legend and a great fighter, and he's strong, but he had one defense against a guy who clearly should not have been in that title defense, and nearly lost that title.
I agree. That being said, I still think Michael Bisping is it's a noteworthy accomplishment.
Yeah.
If you can beat
legit competition.
Yeah, if you can beat Michael Bisping, you're in the few. Right, the people that have beaten Michael Bisping are few and far between, and even.
But I definitely agree with Michael's point, though. It's not like Conor McGregor, who's just jumping divisions and beating whoever's there. I do think that was, and I love Michael Bisping, and I hate criticizing British people.
I hate doing this with Bisping. I hate doing it because Bisping deserves.
Yeah, well, he's a legend. Let's leave the good name of Bisping out of this because it's really just a side point.
It's one fight in the division.
I
does not make you a champ. Like You know what I mean? Like, it would mean one thing if he'd cleaned down the middleweight as well, or even won a couple of fights and then won the championship.
Well, hold on. To that point, I mean, Conor McGregor had one title defense. Sorry, had 0 title defenses.
Which is why he's not considered in this discussion.
No, I think he's not considered in this discussion because he's taken a couple of losses, right, to Khabib and to Nate Diaz, and I think that while he's in the consideration of the elite, he's not in the consideration of GOAT, of these top 3. Like, we've got to be discriminating. Now, all I was going to say is that even though Khabib didn't do it in 2 divisions, I think lightweight is the strongest division at this time, the strongest division on earth.
Well, see, that's why
I'd go Khabib, George, and then John Jones third. Not that I don't think what John Jones is, because remember, this is the conversation of best of the best. These are the top 3. This is a category that not even Anderson Silva, Demetrius Johnson, or Henry Cejudo are worthy of in. And that's this is cream of the crop. I think John Jones needs to be third out of those 3 just because he had a few victories there at the end that were a little bit
chintzy.
Plus, he decisively lost to Matt Hamill. We can talk about that another time.
I was going to say so did Anderson Silva, but he's not part of this conversation.
No, he's a tier below. No disrespect.
See, this is the problem.
But then also, GSP has a loss. Like a couple losses on his record.
But that's the problem. Here's the difference. In his prime, had a blip on the radar to Matt Serra. In his prime. Yeah, now, and for Matt Hughes, I'll say he wasn't ready. I'll give him that one.
Here's the difference. Ready. Here's why I think George St. Pierre's losses are a little bit different. He avenged both of them decisively. Matt Hughes he beat twice, and Matt Serra he came back and it wasn't even close.
Khabib doesn't have a loss to avenge. That's the difference.
I know. That's why I put Khabib 1, George St. Pierre 2, John Jones 3.
Oh.
Well, see, here's the thing: is that even despite
the fact against nothing, sorry,
right? Even,
setting up a straw man, are we?
Right, but see, here's the thing: is with me is that I actually had GSP above Khabib.
Did you?
Believe it or not. So, like, as much as I'm arguing against GSP, I actually have him above.
So, what are your rankings? We have 3 different rankings. This is so funny.
I have Khabib 1. I have GSP 2. Sorry, I have GSP 1, Khabib 2, Jones 3, Silva 4.
Interesting. Wait, and I wouldn't put Silva above Henry Cejudo.
I would.
No, come on, man. Don't do that.
I would.
What do you mean don't do that? A 2-division champ who has one
Johnson
loss
beats Henry Cejudo today.
Like
now.
Right. Based on what evidence? Henry Cejudo beat Demetrius Johnson the last time they faced?
Barely. That was a really close fight.
I thought, I'll be honest, I thought Demetrius Johnson won, and I thought the judges robbed him only because...
But if they wanted to get him out of there.
Yeah.
If there's a convert... Right? Well, they wanted to get them out of there. Now you're speaking conspiratorially. The judges are connected to the UFC overall.
But
I get it, but like...
They didn't do a rematch. The first thing they do is they trade him to ONE FC, and he's never heard of again.
Yeah, but Demetrius Johnson was on board with that. His coach...
champion for what, 11 years?
Dude, Demetrius Johnson was on board with that. Demetrius Johnson felt he was maltreated by the UFC, and his coach, Matt Hume, is a co-owner of ONE FC. So it
makes sense.
That was Demetrius Johnson's call as much as it was.
I hate to go into conspiracies. That's why I tried to bite my tongue before I got into this. But like, don't you find it a little weird that when he starts, he doesn't want to have a match against TJ Dillashaw because he's not convinced TJ Dillashaw will make weight. And by the way, by all accounts, it looked like without some help, TJ Dillashaw couldn't make 125. That
we're so far.
I know.
This has nothing to do with anything.
I know, but all I'm trying to say is, I thought Demetrius Johnson won that fight, and it's weird. It's weird to me that
I think it's weird, but I think this is until you have evidence of a conspiracy. It's kind of just.
I know that too.
You can't just
claim
not a conspiracy.
For me, Stefano, it's not even a conspiracy thing. I just think that I didn't see enough evidence from Henry Cejudo to prove during that fight that he's a significantly better fighter than Demetrius Johnson.
You don't have to prove that you're a significantly better fighter. You just have to win. That's it.
Yeah, but then I have to consider that when we're talking about legacy and whether you're better than Anderson Silva.
Well, I think Cejudo's up there. I think Cejudo is
Anderson
up there.
Silva lost twice to Chris Weidman, and the postscript to his career has not been very pretty.
At 39, 40, 41, and 42, like why do we always do this with Anderson Silva, where it's like, if he's out of his prime, like what, he had to take 3 years in between, all of a sudden it doesn't matter anymore? At what point does somebody...
It counts. It absolutely counts.
It does count.
It's a part of your career.
It counts, but it shouldn't count to the point where he's below Henry Cejudo all of a sudden.
Really? Then why haven't you mentioned Fedor yet if it doesn't count that much?
Because Fedor's above Henry Cejudo, in my opinion.
I don't think so. Henry Cejudo, 2-division champ. two-division champ, defeated some of the GOATs in Demetrius Johnson, Dominic Cruz, Marlon Moraes, whose accomplishments are overlooked because he was doing it in World Series of Fighting. All right, Joseph Benavidez.
Don't think that the Dominic Cruz that fought.
Dominic Cruz didn't fight for like 4 years.
It's like something, and no shots to Dominic Cruz, but I don't think like that's like a, even though it isn't impressive.
Context matters. That's all I'm saying.
Context matters, but if you want, I can start nitpicking Anderson Silva's resume as well. He beat Chris Lieben. His first world-class fighter. Okay, hold on.
He won the title when Chris Lieben was undefeated.
Hold on.
When Chris Lieben was undefeated.
Wait, hold on. I'm not done. He won the title against Rich Franklin,
who was only one loss at the time.
Hold on.
One loss.
Yeah, but are you really going to argue that Rich Franklin is a comparable level of competition to Dominic Cruz, Demetrius Johnson, Marlon Moraes, and TJ Dillashaw?
Okay, look.
Hold on. I ain't finished.
Hold on.
I'm not finished going through this resume.
At the time of that loss, Rich Franklin only lost one time.
Is he a comparable? Yes or no? Is he a comparable level of competition to Dominic Cruz?
Over the body of work, no, but at the time, this is the problem.
There we go then.
But here's the problem. Again, when we say context matters because he beat an undefeated Chris Lieben. Undefeated.
Chris Lieben?
Okay,
Chris, the crippler Lieben? No disrespect. He's not a world-class fighter.
Talk about on this card.
Right,
yeah, let's move on.
All right. No, but sorry. Let me explain my listing and why. Because I have GSP 1 and I have Khabib 2. Now,
stick to these three, please.
Right, I have Khabib 2 and I have John Jones 3. The reason why GSPs, I think the double champ thing matters. I think not the double champ thing. Sorry, I don't think the double champ thing matters. But I think defending your belt multiple times and being the guy that a lot of people have their eye on and are training for matters. And Khabib only realistically has 3 title defenses. Now I can look past that for John Jones, because with John Jones he left the division a lot. There's the USADA stuff, right? I think a bit of it does get tainted a little bit. With GSP, I can't look past it because GSP was in there defending his title multiple times, double-digit number of times. And so for me, I think that matters. Now, the thing about Khabib is he was doing it in possibly the greatest division of all time.
Yeah.
And that mattered.
Hey, hands up if your list of MMA GOATs is changing by the very day. I know mine is. All right, so our next clip is a bit of a funny one. So everyone in the Toronto MMA scene has heard of Johnny Cage, Frank Colcher. And we had him on, and I gotta say, it's probably one of the easiest podcast episodes I did in my life. It was basically ask Frankie about something and let him speak for 30 minutes. But this is a funny story, and it didn't take long for us to get into it, as in the literal beginning of the show, Frankie talked about the time he wore a dress to an MMA press conference. So, Professor Frank, take it away.
Let me introduce to you our special guest today. You may know him as an extra from American History X. MMA since before the UFC was a thing. Sons of Anarchy. He's a pioneer of mixed martial arts, been fighting since the 90s. Black belt under Silvio Bering, coached to some of the finest talents in the game, Bob Sapp, Ben Flattop Fodor, Phoenix Jones, Demetrius Johnson. You might know him as Frank Colcher, Johnny Caged. And if you don't know, he was also cross-dressing into the ring.
It wasn't in the ring.
So yes, that's a real story. We can get into it later. We can get into it later.
I want to get into it now. We can get into that right now.
I want to get into that right now.
Yeah, what was
like a real pioneer.
Yeah, he pulled a Dennis Rodman before Dennis Rodman.
It was around the same time. Rodman was already doing it. Like they used to call Rodman like the Frank Colcher of basketball.
I remember that.
Then. So.
Yeah, that's
What it was it wasn't into the ring. The most I ever wore into the ring that was like that was on a bet, was one of those shirts with the woman's body on it. That's it.
Yes.
But I guess it escalated. That's how it starts out. What it really was I was gonna fight this guy named Andy Social. That was his name. And I'm not really good like on the spot, so I had to write everything I was going to say down. It wasn't about my fight with him. I was trying to get a rematch with somebody that I'd fought twice before. I beat him. He beat me. His name was Max Marin. He was fighting a guy named Jake Hatton. So it was at the
Wait,
press.
was that a press conference? Sorry, I just wanted clarification. Okay.
Yes, it was at the press conference the day before. And so Stefano always gets it mixed up that I came into the ring like that. But what I did was, because nobody would get the joke, right? We won this dress at a strip club a couple weeks before when Jesse wanted to meet Ken Shamrock, the world's most dangerous man. That was his wrestling name because he left MMA and he was doing wrestling at this time. He hadn't gotten back into MMA. So there was a contest to win tickets to WWE. And my friend Barry, Mac Daddy Flex, who, there'll be stories about him. He teaches out in Oshawa and a bunch of towns out there. There's a couple Muay Thai gyms that are all linked together.
Rebel Alliance.
Yes, yeah, exactly. So, don't. He won this dress. You were supposed to get up on stage and embarrass yourself, like to get tickets. Like there was 4 people that were going to win 2 tickets. So anyway, he got up there naked. It's in a strip club, but you can't be male and naked in a strip club, so you can't embarrass Barry. So he walks up on stage. The DJs are like, no, you get your clothes on. We're going to lose our license. So he had to do a bunch of ridiculous stuff like lick his shoe, which I didn't think was that gross at the moment. But now when you think about it, have you ever been in a public bathroom, a male public bathroom that the floor's not covered in piss? So luckily he didn't die. Years later he didn't catch anything. But part of it was he had to wear this dress, and they all had to run out and go to a different motel or hotel in the area. This is by the airport, and grab a business card from the hotel and race back. And it's not just MMA. Whatever we're going to do, we're going to win. So, like I said, it's not a team sport. Earlier, we were talking about MMA. I was saying MMA is not a team sport. It's a team effort. So when Barry went to run out to get his business card, I went with him. They sent him to the farthest hotel because it was rigged. They're trying not to have him win. And then we got it, and I flagged a cab on the way back. So even though it wasn't that far, we lucked out. We got a cab back. He was the first one back. Now, the tickets were rigged because Barry should have won all 4 tickets, but they wanted one guy to win 2 and someone else to win 2. That's just the way it was because Barry was the guy that was winning. What are you guys doing?
I'm looking for
the iPad here.
Not only does he have dad jokes, he has dad responsibility.
I know, exactly.
But go on.
Okay, so where was I in that story? See, I knew this was going to happen. You guys are going back in your dungeon, all right?
I love this.
Hey, say hi to Zeus.
Hey, cutie.
That's adorable.
I wanted to name him Jupiter because the Romans appropriated Greek culture and they renamed all their gods, but they stuck with Zeus. So, yeah, Italians.
See what you did? You see what your people did, Stefano?
Italians were doing this shit from way
all my people did bring beautiful food and culture to the world, so you're welcome.
Oh, wait, you mean the noodles you stole from China?
Get out of here. From China. Okay, hold on. Let's get back to the story, and we can talk about how great Italian culture is. Thank you later.
So, we flagged the cab back. He had to kiss a guy in the mouth, which this wasn't Barry. This was the other guy. It's just a kiss. It's like the guy didn't have to put his tongue in Barry's mouth. And that's what Barry said to the guy. Like, dude, it doesn't have to go that far. But anyway, he didn't say that till after because he didn't want to lose. So anyway, they won the tickets. Barry and Jesse went because Jesse Richardson, that's how I know this guy from Matador. He was the guy that wanted to go meet Ken Shamrock because before I moved to train with Matt Hume, my big dream was to go to AMC and train with Matt Hume. Jesse was living in Edmonton at the time, and his dream at the time, because he had Shamrock's book on the lines then, was to go down and train with Ken Shamrock. He didn't know that they were all falling apart at that time, that they weren't really what they were kind of in the early 90s. So I convinced him, hey, come on out to Toronto for a couple of years. And then we got him hooked up. He was Marcus Suarez before. So then he came and he trained with us. And now he's full Silvio Bearing. But anyway, where was I in the story? This is what I knew would happen.
He made them He made them.
You're gonna have to
you're in trouble right now.
Yeah, you're gonna have to disconnect and call back because your connection is not doing too well right now.
Can you guys hear me?
Now
testing.
Now we can.
1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay, good. I can hear you too. Okay, continue. So you were just at the part where they forced two guys to kiss, and somehow this is leading into your knockout of Andy Soto.
Well, that's where the dress came from, because the dresses were $150 each. So they went to the strip club, had a little store next door where they would sell stuff for the strippers, and it was kind of like a wedding dress. It's this stretchy thing. So anyway, I took the dress with me to Toronto because I was fighting in a week. So that night we went out to meet Ken Shamrock and everything. We waited till all the WWE fans left. So what happened was all the WWE fans were there, like, with their fake championship belts to get Ken to sign it and all this. So we waited until they left. Then we went up to meet Ken. And then, because we were fighters, we weren't wrestlers, we ended up hanging out with him and the owners of the club for the rest of the night. So my fight was a week later. So I wasn't drinking or anything because I was serious about my fight, because my fight before that was a loss to Max Marin, because I was asked who I could fight. Like, the promoter asked me to fight this guy who I wanted to fight. I wanted to fight Max because I beat him easily 2 years before, and I just got back to fighting after an injury. So I'm like, well, I'll fight Max. So Max ended up beating me. So I was training super hard. I was super serious. But I wanted to get that rematch with Max. So now fast forward a week later to Edmonton. I'm in pretty good shape. And then, so you look jacked in that dress. Like when I pulled it on, because it was so stretchy, I put a toque on.
Yay.
If this is the States, I'd have to say beanie, because they don't know what toques are down there. And I had some sunglasses on. And I also had a bunch of stuff I wanted to say. Even though I was fighting Andy Social, I wanted to talk crap to Max. And he was fighting Jake Hatton. So I wanted to interrupt their thing. So I worked it out with Jake Hatton and his manager that I won't come up and interrupt until you say what you're going to say. As soon as Max starts talking, I'm going to come up. So he's like, okay. So then Jake says what he's going to say. I come up, and since nobody's going to get the joke that I'm this guy's anti-social, I had a big sign that said anti like your uncle and auntie and social. So I come out, and I'm like,
his opponent's anti-social, get it?
Yeah. So my opponent's anti-social. Well, I'm anti-social, and then I put the sign down, and then I got everything I wanted to say, like a flow chart, like people do on sales calls. So he says this, and I'm like, yeah, but and I wrapped it off, and then I looked like I was really quick and fast with the comebacks. I'm not. I got to usually write stuff out, and it's like the room we're in right now is filled. It's like I don't know if you've seen Seven, the crazy guy with all the journals. These are all my screenplays.
Yes.
They're alphabetized and stuff. So.
Wait, are those actually screenplays?
There's stuff that I've written and typed, and
man,
I've been working on my trilogy for a while now. My Dollars trilogy. I don't know if you know anything about Fistful of Dollars, but again, with the Italians ripping off other cultures, Yojimbo is the greatest samurai movie of all time. It's it means bodyguard. So anyway, which is funny with your bodyguard thing that you're always talking about. He says there's a movie called Bodyguard 2.
Oh, yeah. So that
never happened.
Little story that Frank didn't tell you about that. So that dress that he wore into the ring and at the press conference, that was the same dress that John Candy wore in The Punisher. Crazy. But Frank, tell them what ended up happening with that fight, or else it'll be anti.
Oh, you're cutting out again.
Yeah, you're cutting out.
Tell them about tell them about how you won the anti-social fight, or else it's anticlimactic.
Oh, okay. Basically, so if I was supposed to fight Andy, and then if I won him, I was going to fight the winner of Jake Hatton versus Max Baird. So I don't know. I took him down and knocked him out in about a minute or so.
Hey!
Yeah, it's brutal. It's brutal. You guys have to see it.
So the twists and turns in that answer is legendary. But anyway, let's move on to a bit of a darker note. The coronavirus, COVID-19, Big Rona, has obviously taken out a huge toll of our lives. It's been a struggle. Actually, that's an understatement. There's no words to describe just how bad it's been for some people. But we obviously, in the beginning, weren't really sure what was going on, how long it was going to go down, and what the ramifications were. And this is us in the beginning talking about the first real cancellation of sports in North America, which was the NBA and Rudy Gobert. And this was an interesting conversation on basically how much should we rag on Rudy Gobert for catching the coronavirus.
Just wish we didn't have to miss so much sports. I wish there was another way to just disinfect somebody, almost like a gate of disinfectant. you walk in and you're just like sprayed down. That would be cool because I miss the fans. I miss the fans, and I miss my sports. Of just all sports. And I think what really kind of turned the key for everyone was once athletes started getting infected, that's when everyone was like, all right, okay, we got to take this kind of serious.
Yeah, like, you know what? Let me talk about that, because like when you look at the timeline of how this started, it started essentially with one basketball game, the Thunder facing the Utah Jazz, right?
No. It started in China, and I feel like a lot of people.
No, I'm talking about like the cancellation of the Big Four.
No. I think Mike's right. I think when the Thunder were playing the Utah Jazz, I believe there was a brief moment where a couple of the players, they had this large black cauldron, and I think they were kind of concocting some kind of bat soup there in that.
No, okay, of course. No. We know where.
I think it was Carmelo Anthony. He began eating the soup, and then
first off, he's on neither of those teams. But look, okay, let me. Of course. I'm saying, like, when we're talking about where I guess most of the leagues, because Italy was doing the no fans thing for a while, like the Serie A. They were doing the no fans thing.
I just want to say, from a soccer perspective, also, like, as soon as Italy called it off, I knew it was just a matter of time before like the rest of European soccer was going to call it off as well. So.
But I think the catalyst of it was the NBA, if we have to be honest, right? Because the Utah Jazz and the Thunder are playing.
Maybe from a North American perspective, but from like a worldwide perspective.
Well,
yeah, Europe, even before the NBA did anything, Europe was having closed-door events for soccer games.
No, of course, the closed door, but I'm talking cancellations. I'm talking pausing, right? I'm talking like questions about if, like, what, for example, what the UFC is doing is the right thing. It started, I'm going to say it started with the NBA and Utah Jazz versus the Oklahoma City Thunder, right? Because when you found out Rudy Gobert had it, and by the way, in defense of Rudy Gobert, let he who up to that point was not joking about the coronavirus throw the first stone, okay?
That's completely fair,
right?
I wasn't joking about it. I wasn't joking about, infecting people, but I see where you're coming from.
Yeah, like I'm hearing like very smart, talented people on big sports networks lay into Rudy Gobert, and it's because they have
lay into him.
No, but they have the advantage of hindsight. But I think they have the advantage of hindsight, because if you caught those people behind closed doors, they're probably making some jokes, laughing at some memes, laughing it up, having a good time.
And you know what? I think there's nothing wrong with necessarily having a laugh at something that's, dark humor. I don't personally disagree with it. I think it's a good way to make light of the situation. I think
was he irresponsible? Of course. Like, no one's here and saying he wasn't, but what I'm saying is that, like, you don't think it's going to happen to you.
And you know what I think it is? We're so desensitized because I think the media, not with this pandemic necessarily, being over-sensationalized, because I do think it's a legitimate threat, but with past outbreaks like SARS and swine flu and bird flu and whatnot that turned out to be, a lot of alarmism by the media, a lot of media-induced panic for things that kind of fizzled out and didn't turn out to be all that significant, right? Because of those, and because the media is willing to, make a crisis out of anything, we became desensitized. And now, by the time that it has hit us, and we're at the point where we actually have to address this as a legitimate concern, everyone's looking back with hindsight and saying,
he's, like, what's he doing? Like, he canceled our sports, and I'm like, look, of course he's being responsible. No, but that's what I know you wouldn't go that far, but that's what people are saying, right?
No. I think it's both possible to say that, what you're saying, Stefano, about the media has a tendency to hyperbolize these things and kind of feed into the mass hysteria. However, it was also irresponsible. This was something that had already locked down China. So I don't understand why something that had already had real-world impact in a real-life situation, just because it's geographically removed from your reality, doesn't make it any less real. You know what I mean?
But
I think something I've noticed. Hold on.
Sorry, no worries.
I've noticed with the coverage of this, it's almost like people don't want to take it seriously until it's right at the front door.
Yeah.
And now that it's at everyone's front doors, it's kind of just like, oh, what are we going to do? Just look at what happened in other places. You know what I mean?
I agree.
I agree with you, but I think that the point I'm trying to make is that, like, if Rudy Gobert was one of those people, I would, like, if I have to eyeball a number just by taking a shot in the dark, I would say he was one of 100 million people who was joking around about it, who was fake touching, who was fake coughing in the in the stores, who wanted to make a YouTube video and get some clout. Like, I'm not saying he was that far, but what I'm saying is that, like, for him to be in that, like, group of people who were joking around, I think we were only looking down on that group with hindsight and not, like,
No, not rolling. I'm not rolling because it's just not funny. Like, it's just not funny.
But, like, people were making jokes about World War III, like, literally a couple months back, right?
Yeah.
Like, this is what
wasn't funny either.
I know,
Wait,
but this
hold
is
on.
what people do. I'm with you, but this is what people do,
David,
right?
are you one of those? David,
I'm agreeing with you, but it's easier to call people out, especially when they're wrong. That's what I'm saying. Like, you can tell those jokes. Yeah, you're well. I completely agree. Especially even if it's real, you're allowed to tell a joke to kind of ease some anxiety. However, when something bad happens and you were kind of making light of the situation, people are going to call you out because that's just the reality of it.
But, like, are you calling people out because it's a bad thing, or are you calling people out because now it's at your doorstep and now you have the advantage of hindsight?
Yeah,
that's what I'm trying to say.
I think that a little bit of dark humor in these situations is good. I think that, yeah, I mean, there's tons of jokes about far darker things that have affected a lot of people, and I think this kind of, like, not to attribute it particularly to this basketball player, but I think this kind of gallows humor is something that, helps a lot of people cope with these situations, right? I don't think it's necessarily negatively affecting anybody by making jokes. Did he go a little far? Like, sure, maybe. Especially because he was
touching mics.
Especially because he was infected, right? And
Yeah.
I guess that's the big, differentiating factor here. But, like, I don't know. I'm not necessarily against, making these kinds of jokes as long as nobody's personally affected. Like, you're not transmitting the virus. You know what I mean?
I just think
before Rudy Gobert was confirmed as infected, the NBA was still letting thousands of people into their stadiums, still creating this hotbed for the disease to spread. So they were being irresponsible in my eyes. It's just because Rudy Gobert was joking around and publicly on camera joking around that people can look back and say, okay, it's his. Like, they're not saying it directly, but by the way they're covering it, they're making it seem like it's his fault that sports are gone. But like, but if Rudy Gobert was joking around and wasn't infected, we would all be laughing with him. But like, I think the NBA is lucky that Rudy Gobert is taking the bullet for them because now they look like they can ride in on their white horse, like, oh, we're the ones setting the example. But, like, I think if Rudy Gobert didn't get infected, they would probably be irresponsible because, look, now I bet way more people would be infected, like way more people would be infected, and when would be the time that we shut everything down? When somebody dies, when somebody in the NBA dies. Luckily, these guys are in healthy condition and they're like, well, they maintain their bodies so they know, so they're less susceptible to being seriously affected by it. But, like, when was the NBA planning on shutting this stuff down? Like, when somebody died or when somebody ended up in a respespiratory,
or when there was a lawsuit,
So, like, I think people are being hard on Rudy Gobert, and I think the NBA is lucky that Rudy Gobert is taking the bullet for them, to be honest.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think it's the lion's share of the blame does have to lie with the NBA, right? But people just need a face to blame. They're looking for something memeable, something, you know what I mean? Some kind of comical story. But I think it's
why does the lion's share have to blame? Why does the NBA have to take the blame?
Continuing I don't think it should be solely the NBA, but I think, like, all major sports leagues, they didn't get ahead of it. Let's be honest. They didn't get ahead of it.
Yeah, and in their defense, it's a very, very human tendency to not address things until it's too late. Look at global warming.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like you don't we don't see consequences directly attributed to this. Like I don't see it, It's like the whole American US Senator bringing the snowball into Congress saying, "Oh, global warming, there's plenty of snow outside," right? Like until you immediately feel consequences and then it's too late, you're like, "Oh."
And we don't even know if Donovan Mitchell had it before Rudy Gobert. What do you mean we do? Where'd you get the
He has coronavirus.
No, but did he get it before or after Rudy Gobert got it?
Apparently, they share lockers. Their lockers are right next to each
So
other.
exactly, but we don't know who had it first.
Yeah.
We're just looking at Rudy Gobert
Because he was tested first, and that's why we were like, "Oh, it's Rudy," right? But
That's a good point. That's a good point.
Yeah, right. But what if it was Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert was joking around with Donovan Mitchell, and then all of a sudden he got right? My whole point is this.
You're right.
All I'm saying is this: is that we are using. I hate when people use hindsight to blame things that are very normal human reactions. Did Rudy go a little far? Yeah, but it's a human thing he did.
Yeah.
Nobody's blaming anybody. People, well, let me not say nobody. Okay,
Because
I hear what you're saying.
I'm not saying you're not blaming people because David, you're a rational and smart human being.
Well, barely. But what I'm saying is just, I think responsibility is kind of the key word. It was irresponsible, and now people are calling you down, and that's it.
Family,
and just next time there's a global pandemic, maybe don't make a joke about it. Like
the Rudy Gobert thing was even supposed to be a sidebar, wasn't it?
It was supposed to be a sidebar, but I'm glad we talked about. I mean, look, there's no sports going on, so we killed.
Wait, hold on. No sports going on. Did you see what happened on Saturday?
Well, I think Rudy's going to be all right, considering the fact that he's going to make $205 million over the next 5 years. Man, Rudy, by the way, I'll take care of the money for you. Just send me like 10%, and I got it. Okay, on to another interesting conversation, and it's circled around the idea of mixed martial arts and collegiate athletics. So, one of the best things I think was ever decided by our team was to have an Ask Question segment when we could. And we don't do it often. It doesn't happen all the time. But when we get them, we get some interesting ass questions. And we got a question from a pretty loyal listener, and he asked us about mixed martial arts being in collegiate athletics. Should it be allowed? And I think the boys really ran with it really well in this instance, alongside myself. So, without further ado, let's get into that clip.
Okay,
fan service.
The Ask Question segment.
Yeah, really, man. Jeez. Whoa.
Because this show basically amounts to us doing a bunch of cheap fan service.
It is true. Cheick your you-know-what for the money. Okay, so the Ask Question session or segment, the question was posed, should there be MMA in college or high school, like NCAA sports, youth sports in Canada, et cetera, et cetera? I thought it was interesting. I think it's an interesting question.
I agree.
Yeah.
Interesting. Sorry.
I'll just have once again, I don't think about these opinions too much, so I'll just give you my casual opinion. Yeah, I don't see why not, as long as you pay the athletes and cover their medical expenses. That's
the big thing. I think with prize fighting, athletes deserve to get paid, and I think the NCAA has an abominable record of just exploiting. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry, and they're sucking these poor kids dry for everything that they have, and making them work for free essentially. And the free tuition argument, I don't buy it. Like.
Trust me, I've had plenty of education. It's not worth as much.
No, exactly. Yeah,
it's not worth as much as you think.
And not to mention, in not to get all political again, but in the United States where they supposedly can't afford subsidized healthcare, the NCAA, like the individual organizations, sports organizations, are subsidized to the tune of tens of millions of dollars each.
Oh yeah,
financially successful organizations. So I think, given their poor track record, maybe might not be the best look. And I mean, schools have a tendency not to advocate for combat sports anyways. Like boxing's been around forever and it's been far more popular than it is today. Think of like the 1920s. And for whatever reason, well, wrestling, there's another one, but for some reason,
it's in the NCAA.
Wrestling is in the NCAA, but something about strikes to the head and, academic institutions, people seem to be a little bit uncomfortable with those two things being paired together. But it is an interesting thought experiment. What do you think, Mike?
Well, to me, I think how amateur MMA doesn't pay the athletes, right? And I'm not saying they should. That's not my thing, right? But why not have MMA in NCAA work or collegiate athletics work like the amateur scene, right? Why not have it you wear I'm not saying headgear per se, but you wear protective. Yeah, but
because headgear doesn't do anything to prevent brain trauma.
There you go.
That's the science argument here. I mean, to appease the blood-baying
why not have protective, heavy protective gear? Let's say instead of what else they use in the UFC? I think 6 or 4.
Yeah.
Why not make it 6 or 8 in amateur and wear shin pads? And wear knee pads, and then make it more of a point fighting thing in the NCAA.
Oh, I have an answer for that because that would look horrible.
It would, but I guess. But my point is that why not have it work like the amateur scene in the collegiate scene in collegiate athletics, right? Still have your amateur leagues here and there, like your War of Gods and your whatever. You know what I'm saying?
Shout
and your
MFLs. War of Gods.
Shout out to War of Gods, right? But have it, still have your MFLs and your War of Gods, right? Almost like your club wrestling scene, and then have your collegiate MMA scene be your collegiate amateur scene. You get what I'm saying? And then make it work like that.
I don't think the NCAA or those organizations would ever bite. I think it's interesting though.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I don't see why they won't try it.
If it gets popular enough, I can see them doing it.
I mean,
everything is driven by the
just
market.
have it be your amateur, right? Have it be amateur. I'm not saying pro mixed martial arts should happen in collegiate athletics, but amateur mixed martial arts, I can see it.
Do you think though I think I agree they should get paid absolutely.
But I think they should get paid in amateur mixed martial arts too. That's
100%. But my big reason why I don't think they would do it, and I'm not necessarily saying it would be bad or good for the sport either way. It might be good for it. Might give it a lot more attention. But my reasoning for why they might not do it is with these recent studies on CTE and brain trauma. I don't know that the NCAA and those other organizations would be running to necessarily get into a sport with as negative perception as fighting. It's fighting, I think, is really, as much as MMA has become more mainstream, I still don't think it's a part of the zeitgeist. And
I agree.
And I don't think it ever will be. I don't think we would want it to be.
I definitely agree, but look at football, man. That's not football. Football college football is more popular than ever. So
sure, yeah, but I agree, but college football is a part of the zeitgeist and always has tradition.
No, that's what I'm saying. I think if it becomes part of the zeitgeist, which I think more and more, we're getting a better cultural understanding of what MMA is, and I think it's starting to. Oh my goodness, I hate when I use words like permeates. First of all, I want to put a rule of the number of syllables we're allowed to use on words on this podcast, and I think we should top it at 3.
I agree. This is a Christian podcast, therefore it's lowbrow. We can't be using $5 words.
Whoa!
We're gonna take that one out. We're gonna take that one out. That was bad.
We gotta go a little bit slower for the Christian fans here. Okay.
We're gonna take that out.
Guys,
I can't remember my point anymore. I just think wait, what was my point?
No more $5.
MMA, CTE.
No. That football is so popular, and it's more college football is more popular than ever. So I think as soon as MMA becomes not as popular as football, because I don't think in America anything is going to be
ever get there.
But even we have college lacrosse, which is not a combat sport, but it's as violent. We have college hockey here in Canada, and fights break out all the time, and it's part of the culture.
Less so, actually. In hockey, the amount of fights that have been happening has gone way down. It's almost not even a part of the sport anymore.
But it's still a contact sport, and it's still a sport where CTE is a worry. But I guess the point I'm trying to make is that I don't see, look, whether athletes should get paid or not paid in amateur athletics is not my point, right? But my point is that
point. That's the most important point. That's the only point that counts.
It should be. That's the only point. Hold on. But it's just simply the question is, should there be MMA in college or high school? I would incline to say yeah, because I think one of the biggest issues is that even when you're in amateur athletics, in MMA without collegiate, right? Without collegiate as support, it's pretty hard to sustain. Like, you see a lot of great talents just stop because, they can catch more quick money elsewhere, right?
Yeah.
So why not have it like you go to your local school, you try out for your local MMA, your MMA team, and you guys have, two welterweights, two whatever, two of each division, and you go to a meet. You go to an MMA meet. Right?
So I'm not gonna.
I think there's something there to streamline it, where you can get more athletes who can't necessarily afford MMA classes, who can try out at the amateur for a while, for 4 years, and if it works out for them, then boom, the UFC knows that they can kind of look at these guys to watch.
All right, so unfortunately we do have to end the show at some point, but we got one more clip. And it comes from a guy who's been a staple of the Eastern Ontario and Northern Ontario martial arts scene. He's one of my Muay Thai coaches, undefeated professional mixed martial artist, 2-time national champion kickboxer, Justin King Condie. And this clip is centered around his debut fight. Not necessarily the fact that debut fight was awesome, and I encourage a lot of people to check it out. It was against Justin Taverne, and it was a banger with an awesome wild finish. But the post-fight interview was, I think, even more special, as Justin laid out his heart to the fans in attendance. Boy, remember when there was fans in attendance at sporting events? Miss those days. But without any delay, let me take you to that clip, because the clip was awesome. And his answer as to why he said what he said was, I think, even more better in some respects, and really peels back that curtain towards the life of a mixed martial artist.
So, the post-fight press conference, and we had it as a promo for your appearance, which I thought was probably one of the great, it was kind of one of the more, in my opinion, awesome post-fight quotes.
I put the time in. I earned my place to being here. And for anyone out there who thought I was going to lose this and ever fucking counts me out again, I will fucking crush you. Don't fucking yuck me.
That whole idea of I earned my place to be here, I paid my dues, and everyone who counted me out, that whole idea, it for some reason it hit me right in the heart, right in the chest.
Yeah, well, because mainly because anyone who knows Team Action and kind of where we've come from to have me, especially because my amateur, I'll actually tell you a little funny story about everything and how how it panned out. It's actually kind of funny. My amateur career as a kickboxer, Muay Thai fighter is very prestigious. 2 national championships, 3 provincial championships. I'm an Eastern Canadian title champion. I've done very well as a kickboxer, but as an amateur MMA fighter, I only went 1-4. And my one win as an amateur, the guy, I think he shot in for a takedown, and I stopped his takedown, and I landed right on top of him, and he dislocated his shoulder, so the fight was stopped, and I won. And my 4 losses were just, I was the best way to put it, I was an ignorant striker who thought that everyone was scared to stand and bang it out. And, we made a point earlier, it's MMA, man. If someone knows if they can take you down and choke you unconscious, well, they're going to do it. And for me, I was humbled in that manner. So, I learned my lessons. And then, so 1-4 as an amateur, and I go apply for my pro license. I moved down south. Earned my blue belt under Justin Bruckman. I go apply for my pro license. They weren't going to give me my pro license because of my amateur career. And they're like, Justin, we understand you're a good kickboxer, but you've shown like you don't know what you're doing on the ground yet. And in pro MMA, you're going to get hurt if you don't know what you're doing. So I did the ground games in Sudbury. So I literally went into Sudbury because I talked to the president of the commission, and he said, if you can show us video that you can prove you know what you're doing and you can handle yourself on the ground, we'll give you your pro license. So I went into that ground games literally fighting for my pro license. In the back of my mind, I know if this guy beats me or something, I might not be able to fight. And I already had the fight booked and lined up and everything. So I went into that fight. I won. I got the rear naked choke. I won in that fight. And then I go into my pro fight, and then I end up choking the guy unconscious with a rear naked choke. So, and that's why I was emotional. And I said that, man, because, there's like anything in life, there's people that are always going to talk down to you and say you're no good. And, those people are a dime a dozen, man. You can find them anywhere on any street corner. They're going to talk to you. But I was just happy in that moment. I listened to myself, and I knew what I could do, and I knew what I could accomplish. And for me to finish the fight that way, it was a stamp to a lot of people said that I was able to kind of stay quiet, be a holder, because I even had one guy that messaged me one time, talked a bunch of crap, said I was this and that, just brought in the pad records, and then he blocked me, so I couldn't even respond to him. And I'm kind of happy because at the time I probably would have responded very negatively and, fight fire with fire. But instead to just breathe it out and just acknowledge it for what it is and understand that how horrible that person must feel about themselves to even acknowledge something I did, right? So, I just, like I said, I was just happy to do it, man. And it was a good moment.
Thanks to not just an MMA fighter, but also a friend of mine, Justin Condie, for really sharing his time with us. And with that, it means it's the end of this best of episode. Maybe we're going to do another one, but next week will probably be a conventional show. And tune in for that because that's going to be a treat. Thank you to all of our guests that were featured in this best of episode. And we're also not featured. I know Eric Wilson was a great interview. Wonder Girl was on the show as well. Sam Alvey was in a very exclusive, actually kind of deleted scene interview. And that was a trip to talk to him. And yeah, there was a lot of interesting and fun guys who came onto the show. Also, thanks to the team of Stefano, Jeremy, and David for really turning this podcast turning into something that I think is very special and is going to grow into something even more special as the years go on. So with that, thanks for tuning in with us through all of the Leg Kick, and be sure to like, share, subscribe on YouTube. Be sure to listen to all of our episodes on Spotify. Tell your friends about it and help us to grow in the next oncoming year. Until next time, this is Michael, and stay safe.